Hey, if this is your last video, you're on the mountain.
Video. I have 2 pens that added more weight, and Dio ridiculed me for it, and he's right.
Hey, what do you think of his pens?
Nothing matters right now.
Hey, like it goes.
We're fucked.
We're fucked!
It's just trying to get back on track. I think obviously, I used to play a lot of sports, used to play a lot of soccer and stuff, and and run and all this other cool stuff. We used to hike, right? We've done the Presidential Traverse. We would backpack with like 60, 70 pounds on our back effortlessly. I can't do that now.
Yeah, we almost died, man. Don't you want to get back to that?
Well, I mean, I think it'd be remiss if we didn't briefly talk about it. I don't know. Are you comfortable
sure.
talking about it? I don't want to give you some
We could talk
flashbacks.
about,
Get your
let's
PTSD
talk
going.
about the issues of it or whatever. I don't know.
Get you a little triggered. I don't know. Is it okay? Can we talk about it? Or?
Yeah, we could talk about it.
Okay. Because I feel like there's like blood, sweat, nudity, coldness, all of the things you could think about was experienced.
You mean out on the trail? Yeah.
Out on the trail. Yeah, out on the mountain.
Out on the mountain, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, tell me how you think, and I think some folks might have already seen the clips that we kind of prefaced some of the episodes with on YouTube. And it's Andrew, and I'm asking him, hey, man, any wise words before we hit the trail?
It's like 3 in the morning.
It's 3 in the morning, yeah. We're basically, we drove up to New Hampshire, couple-hour drive, just a bunch of us just loaded in the car with gear. We get to this motel. We're there just for a couple hours just to rest, eat, some R&R, and just prep our gear before we do the Presidential Traverse, which is located in New Hampshire. And it's, I think for those that don't know the region, I probably can safely say the most unpredictable weather you'll find in the Northeast. That definitely has ranges above the tree line. I mean, I think matter of factly, it is like it's like where all the shit comes together, and
Yeah.
you'll even have like snow and ice, up to June at some points. And it's known for like a lot of deaths. I think it's had like the most deaths on the East Coast on a mountain range. So it's a Presidential
Yeah.
Traverse. You go through a couple of ranges of the these mountains like Mount Adams, et cetera, et cetera. So we get there and, we start the trail like at 4 a.m., right? It's like 3, 4 a.m.
It had to have been 4 a.m. I don't think it was
Yeah.
5.
Yeah, it was 4 a.m. before the sun was up, pitch darkness, and we got our gear, got our water. And the thing about this trail is that you really can't get off the mountain range. It's a bit of a trek to get back into civilization. It's just one big main road. It's on top of a mountain, and you got to get to the other side. And there aren't really too many paths. I think once you're like on a certain path or trail, that's it. Andrew, I'll let you tell the other half.
Well, I mean, for like 4 months before the hike, you definitely were my coach. Thanks for telling me to do all those squats because they definitely saved a life. But yeah, I mean, we went up. What was it? What was the elevation there?
By the way, those videos can be found on OnlyFans.
Well, yeah, just we'll drop the name of that at the end of the next episode. Got to figure out a name. But what's the elevation there? Huh?
I want to say it's 4,000 or 5,000 feet. Is that right?
I thought it was higher.
I think it's higher. Oh, it is higher, I think.
Yeah.
It's been so long
Hold
ago.
on.
Andrew,
Yeah.
Google it for the love
Yeah,
of God.
I'm getting off the Rat Boy Summer page. Just
Yeah. The next episode is going to be just reviewing this guy's browser history. So brace yourself.
That's all right. Kamala, you were right. It's 6,000 feet.
Okay. Because
But,
I remember I took a picture of the sign. I remember.
Yeah. 6,000 feet.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but that wasn't the hardest part. Like, I'll let you go into. Go.
I mean, it took like 3 hours to get to the first peak. or not the peak, but the restaurant on top of the first mountain, right?
Yep. Yep.
We got to take a breather then. It was really nice. Everything was going well. The wind was blowing. It felt like a spring winter day. And then, we decide, you and Di and myself, we decide that we're gonna, hey, look at that trail over there. Let's take this one around, and we can meet up with the rest of the crew in like another 2-ish hours or something, right? That was
Yeah,
the
we
idea.
decided to summit one of the smaller
Yeah.
mountains that's on the trail.
Yeah. But that's when it all started to get hinky.
I think
Oh.
it started getting hinky before we even summited because, and you know what? I'm gonna put him on blast. Die, you did not train. You did not take it seriously. You thought it was a joke. You took 3 shits and 8 all before we even got to the top of the mountain. For the love of God, man, you were the slowest hiker I've ever met in my life. And I try to be a supportive person when I'm on the trail, dude. But I was trying to just tell you, like, this is dangerous. And you had no concept of it, man. I don't know why. You just did not have any concept of, like, the repercussions of taking your time, taking 3 to 4 meal breaks, taking 3 shits on the trail. Like, I think, like, that, not that he was the reason why, but he was definitely a catalyst.
Yeah, dude, you don't take like a break on the middle of the trail. Like you can't do that. I don't know. But he was also, I don't know. I feel like he, felt like he was Superman in his own way, right? How old was he then? Like what?
He was 25, dude.
Yeah, it was 20. Oh wow, it was 25. Okay. Wow, should have known better. Never mind.
And it's not his small steps. It's not his stature or small steps. That had nothing to do with it. He just didn't want to push himself. And I think before we go into this story, I think it's good to know some context that me and Andrew like to push ourselves. We don't have any trouble, hitting that threshold. And maybe that's our fault for expecting that other folks can do that, I think. But although not so much because we're on a trail and also on the deadliest mountain range in the East Coast.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? Yeah, you're right. It did start to wear down, before that. But so we were heading for the other. We were going to take the smaller peak and then get back on the trail. And then what? It started to get like dewy and foggy. Yeah, that's when I was like, okay. I was like, fog. That's no big deal. And the dew on my glass is like, whatever. Maybe that's okay. But then I remember that we were, God, where were we? We were on these like really steep shelves, and like we were trying to climb because we had to like, I don't know, like crawl through it basically. And like every 50 yards we had to stop because we were, because Di was like either taking his time or having trouble, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, we couldn't leave it behind. I mean, that was the cardinal rule. No matter how slow we were moving, you never leave anybody behind in your group. So we doubled. We slowed down our pace like at least by 2-3 times of what we should have been going, so that we didn't lose them.
Yeah, and then I feel like just like a TNT blast, metaphorically speaking, kind of went off, like because you got a call, I think, and from the rest of the group who had taken sort of like the normal trail, and like all of a sudden you're like, what, like what are you doing? And like I'm like, oh my God, this is like, I feel like he's just about to like go Hulk or something. I was like, holy shit, we gotta, okay, what's up? And then you get off the phone, you're like, I'm gonna climb over this mountain right here. They're going. We gotta get them. Like, whoa, wait a second. And I remember you said something like, well, I don't know, it was vague, but did you say right then that that Taylor like just left the rest of the crew on the other trail behind and floored it down the mountain because the storm was coming, or what?
No. I mean, I think we got to take a deep dive into this because a lot has been said and there's a lot of unanswered questions. So that call that just barely came in with like 1 bar of left on my cell phone, just miraculously, was because we had split up into 2 groups, and it so happened that I can't say it was just the guys and the girls because we had this other guy, Brendan, who was with the ladies, but it was a majority of the ladies and the majority of the guys in two groups. The ladies were actually hiking at a really great pace. They were doing really great. They were on track as where they should have been. The problem was that we had Di, who I think didn't have a concept of pace and where we needed to be, especially if you're exposed above tree line. And, and then we did do the extra summit, which I could say looking back, that was definitely the worst part because then we had to double up with Di. And for some reason, I thought we could increase the tempo. And the reality is, with Di, there was it was just one pace.
Was that maybe because you were thinking just about how I would pace myself to you?
Exactly.
Mm.
I kind of thought that we could all pace each other and push each other. Maybe I was being a little optimistic and like I knew you, I knew the other folks. Like I'm like, we could do this. We're good. And I thought with two strong hikers, we could push him to do it because we weren't even going like at an aggressive pace. It was just gingerly walking. I was like, okay, if he ups this by a 25%, then we'll be okay. We'll be delayed, but we'll catch up. And the whole point was that we were supposed to meet at a certain point with the two groups and unite before it got really dark. Like this was throughout the whole day hiking, 8 hours or plus. And I think the issue was that it wouldn't have been bad that we were separate, except for the fact that it was clear that a storm was brewing, a literal storm. Clouds were coming in with high winds above tree line, fully exposed to the elements. And it wasn't just the rain, obviously lightning and all this other stuff. There was like 30, 40 mile per hour wind that was also coming along with that.
I mean, at least 30. I feel like it was 40 or higher, but
it was higher. It was definitely higher.
Yeah.
And I think that call came through at a point where anybody that's hiked around or long enough and you're on the mountain knows that, oh, I need to get covered. I need to be in cover and not fully exposed with just rocks, right? And so that call comes in, and I guess we could say her name now. It's like it's been years, and you mentioned it earlier. So Taylor, who was like the strongest hiker who had hiked the Appalachian Trail parts of it.
Yeah, she was doing that, and then
so she was a good hiker, like no questions asked, and the most experienced. But she had made the decision without really consulting with her group. As someone who's the most experienced, you want to have the support of your group when you're making these big decisions, and you want to also look out for them. If you're the most experienced person, you look out for people that are with you that don't have that experience, especially on the mountain trail, right? It's just like human nature, code of conduct.
Yeah, the responsibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a sense of responsibility for your fellow person. And so that call basically was like, hey, no, Taylor's leaving. She's going to not wait for us. She's going to go to the next mountain range, which would then bring them down into the tree line. But she's double pacing it, double booking it, because really it's already like 6, 7 o'clock, and it's going to get pitch black, and the storm is literally picking up, the wind's picking up, and the scariest part was the visibility. This fog that just came over the whole mountaintop, where you really couldn't see more than like 5 feet in front of you, right? Honestly, like 5 feet in front of you, really couldn't see past that. So if we lost sight of each other more than 5 feet, we only could hear a little bit, but to a certain extent, because I was muffled by the high wind. So the ladies were basically, their mission was to try to catch up to Taylor. Hopefully they didn't get too separate, and try to scale the next mountain and down into the tree line for safety, versus wait for us and we scale down together. I don't know what exactly went down with the ladies, but Taylor made the decision to just double book it down the mountain on her own, and if whoever followed, each person for themselves, and that was that. And then we lost service, right? That's it. We lost service.
Yeah. I mean, you were on your watch, and you kept trying to like do a call, but it just kept not connecting. And then, I'm actually kind of glad that we had that. In a weird way, that we had that high wind, because you were talking about the fog. And I remember when it was pitch dark, which again was like, 7:30 or something like that. And we had like that 40 mile per hour at least wind, that with the headlamps that you guys had, because I didn't have one, I felt like, like if the fog were there, we wouldn't have been able to see the rock formations that were set up on the trail before, right? Because they were what, like 20 yards apart or something?
Well, yeah, and that's actually a really great detail, because for most folks that maybe haven't been on a mountain or trail long enough, when you're below tree line, they're marked on tree line. There's a reflector. If you have a headlight, it shines. But when you're above tree line, the only trail markers you have are rocks stacked up against each other. That is it. And these are really spaced out, really apart. Because just imagine, above tree line, you see nothing except grayness and like little rock formations. That's it.
Yeah. And anyway, I'm just glad that the wind was there, because I feel like that pushed out at least the fog. Because I feel like it would have been way more difficult, and we would have taken more time getting back below tree line. But then what was it? It took did we actually book it, and was like an hour and a half to get back, or to the main area? How long was it?
It took us 3.5 hours, three
To
and a
get
half
back?
to 4. Yeah, it did.
Damn.
Because at some point we were paralyzed on the trail. I don't know if you remember, we couldn't leave Die, obviously.
Yeah.
Like if he was moving slow before, he was moving even slower now. And it was pitch black. And then at a certain point, I know it took us 3.5 to 4 hours, because sleet started coming down. It started snowing. It was hailing. It was actually hail.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't sleet. I'm sorry. It was hail coming down.
I
You could
remember
actually
the sideways hail.
sideways hail that was just prickling your eyes. You really couldn't keep them open for too long. So the girls, they chose their path. Technically, they had by default, they had no choice. They had to follow. And so we don't know if they were going to make it or not. But it came to a certain point where, like, all right, what do we have to do? We either get minimally below tree line, and find cover, or we scale the mountain down the mountain fully for like an 8 to 12 hour march. And also, it's pitch blackness going downhill. And I don't know about your experience, and maybe you could weigh in on this. For me personally, going downhill is actually slower than going uphill.
Well, I mean, I'll just tell you what I was thinking when we were going back. You remember I was slipping every like bit because of I don't know what it was, but I just was like slipping and then like right back up. But one thing that I had in my mind was, well, we're not going to be able to get into any shelter when we get back to the what was like the country club restaurant at the top of the mountain. I was preparing myself for that whole hike down. I was like, I just figured that it was going to happen, and I was biting the bullet on it. I was like, fuck it, right? Got to do this. But on like mountain hikes down, I'm not sure. Maybe it is slower. I know that I like to do the maybe the less safe thing, and that's sort of like I just do hopping all the way down, onto like, rocks that are kind of like hard to grip. So I kind of like to do the bouncing and speedy down. But yeah, I think maybe it is slower in the long run.
Well, also considering that the rocks were wet and high wind and poor visibility. And here's the other element. Ready? We were so exposed to the high winds and rain and water that essentially all our gear failed. Right?
Yeah.
Your raincoat wasn't working at some point. You were drenched, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was hypothermia.
Yeah.
We were beginning to.
Yeah, I could feel it in my fingers. Like I remember my hands with the gloves. I had the liners too. Mm-hmm. Like that numb feeling, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is like, I'm gonna do that thing." And
no,
anyway,
at some point the temperature had dropped drastically, and it felt like, I want to say 20 to 10 degrees. It's like in like roughly 20 degrees with being cold and the wind blowing at 50, 60. And at some point, I'm pretty sure the wind like peaked at like high 50s at some point.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I remember walking, literally just like leaning forward. Like I was like at greater than a 90 degree, literally.
No, that was totally.
And at one point I was on all fours, just kind of like walking like the trail.
And if we didn't say it already, it was like the dead of winter. Like we're talking, what month was that? Was that
So
February?
it was October,
It was
but
October. That's right.
In New
Yeah.
Hampshire though is like it's like January anywhere else.
Yeah.
In winter wise.
So it was very cold. The elevation, the storm, all of that kind of came together and just made a perfect storm, I guess is the term, right? But then what you said, after 3 hours, we made it back to the mountaintop lodge that was closed because it was winter.
Right. So
And
it was off season, yeah.
We take the little connector trail down below tree line, and then we're like, well, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna like bust it down the mountain, or so we start looking around. I remember we're looking around for the like at the complex, the restaurant stuff. Everything's closed, of course, pitch black. And then I remember like, oh man, like it's elevated, so like you could get underneath the actual building, and there was a shovel there. That was crazy. So like, I forget who grabbed it, but I ended up with it first after we got it. And we found like a shack that was, I don't know, maybe like 15 yards away from the actual lodge. And there was a padlock on it, right? And so I was like, but my hands were like super dead and all wet, and I couldn't get it. And then, well, you take it. You take it up.
Well, I think even Dai tried too, right? We're like, Dai's
Yeah.
got low base. He could maybe, he
Yeah,
could maybe do it. He didn't do it. And I immediately was like, okay, we either like this has to work, or else we're gonna have a very painful descent in pure darkness. And I will add this. I had really good hiking boots. I had my Solomon's,
Yeah, I remember those.
Gore-Tex, like, high tighty boots, and they failed at that point because the wind and the rain was so bad. It failed. My feet were wet at one point, and they were getting numb. And
Yeah.
so I just remember, like, you guys gave everything you had, considering what we endured. And yeah. I remember, like, after you struck everything with everything, like, you just gave up. I saw for a second, you're like, a moment of defeat for the first time on your face. And then you look to me. It was all like in slow motion. You're like, yeah, it was like that. Like, and like, it was just because we were so tired too. We're fatigued. We didn't eat. We had no water. We're practically out of water at this point too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Dude.
and I just I think I picked up a rock. I found the rock, right? Yeah, I found the rock, like I want to say like the size of a soccer ball, and I noticed that one corner had like a little jagged edge sticking out,
Okay.
and I just remember just slightly picking it up over my shoulder like this with two hands and just lunging at it, throwing it down with everything I could. I was maybe like 3 feet away with everything I had, and I just chucked it. And all of a sudden, all I remember is just bounces off the padlock, and the padlock bounces out.
Yeah.
And I was like, we look at each other. I'm like, oh my God, is this just worked? Maybe it was YouTube breaking it, weakening it, but whatever the case was, the padlock just snapped. And we're like, oh God, we have shelter for the moment. I'll let you take over.
I mean, I just remember one weird thing about the inside of the shack, right? Like there were all those bales of hay, right? Like, so like, it's almost like someone like left those in there just in case someone was able to break into the shack. I don't know. And like the bags of like, what was it? Salt or something? I don't know.
It was insulation. It was like wood chips. It was wood chips. It was all wood chips. It was like it was surprisingly and the way it was set up was they were all along the wall. So it was, I think, purposely set up for
like as a fail safe if you could break in. But I just remember I dropped trowel like immediately as soon as we got a blanket out, and I was like, I got to do this. Getting all this cold stuff off.
In a Greek fashion, this guy started just taking his clothes, which actually was smart, which is what you're supposed to do. Take off your wet clothes. And although there's one crazy thing that we kind of overlooked, we didn't open a fire, right? We tried for a millisecond, and then I realized, dude, everything in this shack is highly flammable.
Oh yeah, yeah, that would have been toasty.
Yeah. But we made it into the shack. We were trembling. We literally, like, everyone took the clothes off. We had to because it was just so wet. I made the mistake of leaving my boots outside. I don't know why I left them outside.
Yeah, I remember, we got up and...
Yeah, they were frozen in the morning. That morning, they were frozen. Ice inside.
So crazy.
That descent was not fun.
I just remember getting a text from, I forget, one of the gang, it must have been like 9 o'clock, or no, not 9 o'clock. It must have been like 1 o'clock, midnight, because
Right.
it was a 3 hour hike back. And they were like, so, are you guys safe? I was like, yeah, we're like, did you get off the mountain? I don't know how I had signal, but I had signal barely.
Mhm.
And I sent the last text that I could, and I said, we're not off the mountain. We found shelter. We'll contact you as soon as we can in the morning. And then I just left it, under the blanket, and that was it. Dude, I remember waking up. I don't know if I told you guys this. I remember waking up after, the sleep or whatever, and I looked at my phone, and it said seven. It was like 6 a.m. and I could still hear outside the storm. The wind was still going like loudly. So I was like, oh man, like 12
That
hours later.
that's a really good point. And I think that's one thing that we kind of left out was that the wind buzzing past us was deafening, right? Like
Yeah.
even when we were in the shelter, it looked like you were like in a hurricane. The wind was
Yeah.
so strong, and it was really the only shelter that's it was actually above tree line. It was above tree line. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just fully exposed. So you could literally hear it. You could hear like the wood creaking of like the
Yeah.
50, 60 mile per hour wind pushing against it. And to know it was still fucking cold inside. It wasn't like we're in there and it was warm. We were still shivering. Like I
Oh
think
yeah.
it took us a few hours to get dry, but we were still cold, still cold. I remember half my sleeping bag got wet, and so like it was just like a bad situation. But we managed to make it through the night. I think we slept just a few hours, right? We couldn't really sleep, even though
No,
we were exhausted. We were exhausted. I think because it was a cold, right? Like, we didn't have any heat source.
I think, at most I must have slept like 3 hours. So we
Yeah,
probably
yeah, yeah,
passed out at like 3 a.m. Because
yeah,
like I said, I woke up at 6 or 6:30, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And then we got out of the shack somewhere like around like after 7, I think.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was our Gilligan's Island moment.
Oh my God, dude.
I just remember like the crickets there were when we got back to the hotel.
hmm
Just crickets and that.
I,
Yeah.
I mean, like it's yeah, I think we reconnected with our group. I think like as we were descending and we had better service, you messaged them saying, "Hey, we're on track to like get to the trailhead. Like in 2.5 hours. Meet us like at 9 or 10 or something, right? Like 9.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and they met us. Luckily, we met up, and it wasn't like you're alive, you made it. It was just like, yeah, it was a bit awkward. It was like an
Yeah.
awkward reunion to say the
Oh
least.
yeah. Good times, right?
Yeah, but I will say this though, like I'm glad that at least you were there to do that because I think we both had like a sense of urgency
Yeah.
and we look out for each other. We didn't separate. And I think sometimes you could speak to the human condition that some folks, when faced with these type of things, panic and like, it's almost instinctual, right? Save
Yeah.
myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the evolved and like humane thing, is to stick around and obviously make the bad decision to like, let me see if I can stay with this group and help them, right?
Yeah.
That goes against all
Absolutely.
instinct. It goes against all
Yeah.
instinct. But
I
but
mean,
I think it's the right thing to do. You're not going to leave,
I do too. The first thing we're taught is to think about ourselves, but got to think about what's happening with everyone else. But hey, I'm glad that I had the trial by fire with you. And hey, here you go, guys.
Yeah.
We're on Brown Olive podcast. No thanks to this guy, and we made it.
Yeah. And I think it definitely, like, I could tell you, like, even professionally, like just outside, like the fact of that experience really helped shape me, I think, as an up and coming leader, like just as in even anywhere I'm at, I think, it helped me be certain of the type of person I want to be in these type of situations and the type of person that I, want to aspire is just to keep helping people no matter, how extreme things get. Like it's the bare thing you could do. And no, I think there was a lot of growth. I think I walked away with a lot of growth from that
You and
experience.
me both, man. I mean, obviously I was a mess for a while after, but, I think one thing that I took away was, I wasn't like thinking, I don't know how other people think, but I wasn't thinking like, oh, I got to get out of here. I was like, what are we going to do? Right. Um, so, you know, just that was my automatic thought, not like I got to get out of here. And yeah, it just, it, was, it like confirmed a sense of, okay, well, I can do some good and I do genuinely care about these other people. So,
But to also note too, I think if it was just me and you, we probably would have made it back down the mountain. I
dude,
think.
like I said, I was
Yeah,
ready
yeah,
to
yeah.
do it.
Yeah, right. We would have made it, but I think like that's where we paused for a second and needed to like go against our instincts and be like, okay, guy's not gonna make it back down the mountain. He's not. He's not gonna make it in pitch darkness. His headlamp probably about to die out. Had carrying all, mind you, also we had like, I think at bare minimum we had like 50 to 65 pounds on our back of gear.
Yeah,
At
it was,
least, I'm sure
that
some
was the
people might have had
minimum.
more,
Yeah.
but you know, yeah, and also just being exhausted, it was just a recipe for disaster. Of like, you're going down with an extra 60 pounds. You just miss one step, you're done. You're getting helicoptered out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Evac. But I think like I think we made the right decision in that sense clearly, and like let's we both can do it, but not the whole group. So let's just stop and stick it out, and we got to write this out. So
I just liked how you told me like a few years ago. Yeah, I tell everyone about Andrew and me going on top of the mountain and everything else that all our antics and adventures. So good times.
yeah.
Wouldn't have had it
So
any other way.
I will say this, that it's not obviously easy to say, but like good gear isn't enough, nor is it good training when you're doing these kinds of big things. You need good group dynamics. That's another thing to consider that most
Yeah.
folks don't consider. Because listen, you may be the fittest hiker, you may have the best gear, the best experience, but if you want to do things right, you want to also take into account the group dynamic of.
And for all you viewers out there, just so that we can maybe get some funding, Coursera is a great place to learn these techniques that Felix just brought up. Free if you want. You can pay the subscription. You get certificates, but really free.
We're not formally sponsored by Coursera, but we would welcome that. Or just go to your local like REI outdoor store, whatever you have. Just get out there, learn. I wish I could get out there. I want to get back out again. That's the one thing I miss so much, though. I will say, like, we're being in the outdoors. I think that's.
I mean, tell me about it. It's kind of it's difficult in the Midwest. The closest I came to like getting something like, I don't know, even kind of like a strenuous hike. It wasn't a strenuous hike. Was going down near Louisville.
Right.
I forget the trail or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was sort of like this big stone drop off into like overlooking a river. But there's not you have to drive more than a few hours to get somewhere that's gonna make you feel the ache later. So yeah. I do want to do it though.
You're not that
Dude,
far from
I think
Kentucky,
about
though,
that.
right?
I think about this journey all the time. I think about, when am I going to get 6,000 feet up in the air again? I think it's just, there are some people, like there are some people who are adrenaline junkies. And I don't know if I would say that you or I are actually adrenaline junkies, but there are some people who are just like born adrenaline junkies, and that's just how they operate. They need to get that fix, right? And then there are some people that are sort of like built for that kind of like higher intensity adventure or traverse. And we kind of like you said, push the limits, see what you can do, see how you can get better.
Oh boy, man, that's a hell of a trip, though. I will say, hell of a trip, and a hell of a trip down memory lane. Yeah, and I look back at that, and I think I use it as a learning experience. And I encourage anybody who to continue to push themselves and challenge themselves. I think that really shows you what you're made of. And if what you're made of is not what you like, then at least you have the opportunity to get to improve on that, right? Like there's no real dose of real dose of reality than really seeing yourself at your weakest and at your most vulnerable. You're gonna get a cease and desist from REI. That's gonna happen. To note, we were former REI employees. If folks ask, we were.
Yes.
And that's why we were geared up. We knew about hiking. We were informed. We knew the trails. We did our homework. It wasn't like we just blindly went. But I think it's just like, when you're out, you can plan as much as you like, but when you're out there and you also take into account group dynamics and people, it's a whole different animal, whole different beast.
Yeah. Just wild.
No,
Wild.
it's a good memory, and I don't think I could do it again. I don't know, man. Could you do
No?
it again?
I totally would.
No, could you?
Yes.
Yeah, you think you could do? I mean, you're a fit guy. You're.
I would just have to do. I would have to do 6 months of squats. That's probably what I would have to do, and cycle a lot more, I think.
Yeah.
But I feel confident that I could do a solid 7-hour hike. I mean, at least 7 hours without stopping. Yeah, I feel like even with an 80-liter on my back.
Look at you! Look at this guy. Nice, dude. Nice.
I still have my pack from our traverse too. So did me good. I'm
This
keeping
shit's
it.
already past its quality. You know that, right? Things degrade after 5 years max. Like things, you'll bring it on the trail and that thing will disintegrate. The minute you take it off, it's gonna fall off a ledge and that's it. And you're screwed.
Oh yeah. But I would totally do it. You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it. You wouldn't.
I think I would have to. I
your
don't know.
circumstances,
I
you've
would
got
have
some
to
things.
seriously train. No, I would need to seriously train again, and
Yeah.
I would need at least 6 months, at least
Yeah.
6 months to get back to maybe the level where I used to be.
Yeah. Less of those MacDougall burgers.
I know. Actually, that's what I might have tonight, dude. Sponsored. No, we're not sponsored by McDougal Burgers, but I'd appreciate it. No.
I mean, it's okay. I had to get one of those burgers last week because I forgot my lunch. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta eat a tasty burger.
Anyone that's starting to get out there on the trail, I would just add one thing, and this is me for any of the folks that are tech obsessed. I did not get lost in that trail at all because, I mean, I did look at the maps and it's kind of hard to get lost unless you go really off trail. But I did download, or I believe I already had the map on my watch, on my Phoenix.
My
Phoenix watch, which was really good at in case you do go off trail. Remember when we descended, we went slightly off trail, but I literally just looked at my watch and I was like, yeah, no, let's go a couple.
Yeah,
couple
I do
feet
remember
the other way. So, if you could dole out a little bit, get those things, it could be life-saving in the end. And honestly, don't underestimate Mother Nature. Do not. You will lose. You will lose to Mother Nature.
Do you have a new watch?
No, actually, I'm usually wearing it. I'm not wearing it this time. Actually, it's the same watch. It's the Phoenix. Did I get an upgrade? I think I might have maybe upgraded to the next level, but it's still an 8-year-old watch. I didn't get any of the newer new ones. I think I have the Phoenix 5X. That's the last one. They last forever. They're a tank. It's a good investment. And they have this indestructible glass, so in case you fall, it doesn't scratch or anything or break. Garmin has a great warranty. Garmin, if you want to sponsor us, always looking forward to that. But no, I think that's prep as much as you can, train everything you said. Are the key to getting out there. How would you say getting out there has helped your mental health?
Oh, you mean in general, or
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we have some scientific data now that proves, even more so than then, back in 2016 to 2017, that being out in nature, even forget this, 15 minutes, like already starts changing the way that your brain operates and processes nutrients, information, the gray matter, how it gets stimulated. So 15 minutes, if you just take 15 minutes out of your day to stand out in nature without your electronics and just enjoy it, and you do that for a whole year, you're already helping your brain out way more. So I would say that, yeah, it's definitely helped. It always helps.
See, some folks wear Gucci, some folks wear Louis Vuitton. This guy wears merino wool, and merino wool is not cheap. So just know that.
No, I just wait several paychecks and then I do a blowout, 3 socks, and then okay, well there goes however much
that's already like $100.
I mean,
Probably more.
I mean, it's not every paycheck, but it's
wool is the way to go. Like if I could indulge wool, I would get just wool everything. And wool is not just for this. You could also get light wool for the summer. But folks think wool is like, winter, Arctic.
Yeah, we're talking about the light wool, everyone. Merino wool.
Yeah.
You can wear that winter or summer.
Andrew, I'll turn it to you, man. I know you wanted to also bring up some points or prompts. I think.
So just very briefly, 2 former classmates. Their sophomore feature film. Partners Adam Cobb and Nicole Regal. Graduates of the 2009 Wright State University Motion Picture Program. They have been making the indie circuit rounds, Sundance, all that stuff. So their sophomore film called Dandelion came out. I did my due diligence and went to make sure they got $2 out of that $10.50 ticket. So we might, I'm going to reach out to Nicole and Adam and see if one or both of them can take 5 minutes and do a little interview with us. And hopefully that'll work out. I'm sure they'd love to, talk more about cinema and, just share their baby. Yeah.
Nice. I love the fact that giving a shout out to up and coming filmmakers, especially, you having them. I know. Are you all like from the same alma mater or no? Same?
Now we are. I mean, because I graduated.
I just wanted to double check. So that's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys are literally from the same school.
Yeah. The Oscar winning Wright State University program multiple times.
Surprised you're not wearing the shirt. You should have the shirt. The shirt.
There are other reasons I don't rep that school, so whatever.
Clearly, we won't be getting any sponsorships from Wright State. Yes.
I've been wanting to get back into reviewing. I used to do my own, personal, private, independent reviews of movies, and just want to get back into it. Maybe there will be something for an episode or two later for that.
There's no maybe. We'll do it, and we'll post it, and we'll post it on the website under our film reviews. Yeah. You gotta give him a deadline, or this guy will never get it done. You gotta press his hand to the fire a little bit.
Yeah, I'll be like, I'll get it next time. When's next time? Next time.
Thing's already on criteria. It's already on criteria when it's done, and there's already essays on it, and he just
Stop it.
Yeah. You gotta put a little fire under Andrew to get him get his creative juices going. He likes the pressure. Anything else, Andrew, before we wind it down? And
I'll do a shout out. So Ben Affleck, we know you're there. We know that you're hurting. It's okay. We're worried about you. Have a little more to eat. Direct another movie. Kiss Matt Damon on the mouth. It's fine.
Thank you for watching Brown Olive Rooftop Conversations. This is your host, Felix, with Andrew. We appreciate your support, and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you.